Our first patient speaker this evening is a very special lady. She is not only a cancer survivor, but she is also a Memorial physician, Dr. Laura Liberman. She's been at Memorial for 21 years as a radiologist with expertise in breast imaging. But that's certainly not enough. She's also the director of the Women Faculty Affairs here at Memorial, and in this role has had a tremendous impact on the professional and personal lives of our women faculty as they balance work and home life. In 2007, Laura was diagnosed with lymphoma and treated at Memorial. She wrote a book about her experience called I Signed as the Doctor. So please join me in welcoming a friend and colleague, Laura Liberman.
Thank you very much. When you give these talks, you always say, oh, I'm so happy to be here. But speaking as a cancer survivor to an audience full of cancer survivors, I know you will understand me when I say, I am very happy to be here. I'm struck a little by the irony of summarizing the highlights of being a cancer survivor in 3 minutes, because one of the issues you face in surviving cancer is the feeling that you just may not have enough time. So I'm going to give it my best shot. So if I have to tell you the most important thing about cancer survivorship in 3 minutes, I would say that for me, and I think for many of us, one of the most challenging periods is not during, but after cancer treatment. When you're being treated for cancer, you have a list of things to do. There may be chemo, surgery, radiation. There's a protocol. You have to get from point A to point B to point C. You have to do all these things. You focus. You don't take time to reflect. You have to survive. You have to get it done. And cancer treatment is a little bit like Katrina. And then after the treatment is done, the wind stops howling, and you're left to reflect, and there you are surveying the damage. And you look and you see that who you were may not be who you are, and you're not sure who you are. And all of your friends are saying, how fantastic, you got through it. And it is fantastic, and you did get through it, and you're not necessarily who you were, and that's a loss. And it's a loss that can make you grieve. And there's a wonderful book by a guy named William Bridges called Transitions. I mean, how great is that? A guy named Bill Bridges who wrote a book called Transitions. So, and he describes the challenges of going through a transition. Even a transition to something good can be challenging because there's phases of dealing with it. And he divides it into 3 phases, what he calls letting go, the neutral zone, and the new beginning. And it's a little bit like you're flying on a trapeze and you let go of the trapeze, and then you're just hanging there in midair without a safety net, and you don't know what you're going to grab onto. And that's the neutral zone after cancer treatment is done. You'd love to just go back and grab onto that rung that you just let go of, and you may not be able to do that, and you're not sure where you're going. And so it's uncomfortable, and there's uncertainty, and I think that can be a very challenging period for many of us. So I wanted to give you 6 suggestions for how you can help tolerate the uncertainty of that neutral zone, which some of you may be in now. 1, you have to accept. It's okay to feel that way. It's normal to feel that way. You might feel that way, and you have to allow yourself some time to feel that way. Support. You know, I get by with a little help from my friends. Don't worry, I'm not going to sing for the rest of the talk. But the support is really important, and Memorial has fabulous resources for support. I personally benefited from several resources. The Resources for Life After Cancer program had a group called Grace and Grit for women cancer survivors. I met some incredible people there. I took a meditation class at our integrative medicine service, which is absolutely fabulous, and met some people, cancer survivors, and people who are also coping with other issues. That has been incredibly wonderful and supportive. Met people who shared their experiences, and this was a great thing. Focus on the current moment. I think that's a really important suggestion. That's something that I'm learning in meditation and that we practice in meditation. They call it practice because you keep having to practice it. I have a very dear friend who had breast cancer, and she had some lymph nodes removed from under her arm. And sometimes after you have lymph nodes removed, you can't lift your arm as high as you used to lift it. And my friend is always saying, you know, look, now I can raise my arm 20% as high as I used to, and now I can raise it 30%, and today I could only raise it 28%, and now it's 35%. I think if you look at who you are now as a percentage of who you were before, I do not think that is a prescription for happiness. I think who you were before is wonderful. That's great that she used to be able to lift her arm like that. And that may not be how you can lift your arm now. So I think you can't look back. I think you have to look at the current moment, and you have to look forward. There was a guy in my meditation class who had a partial upper extremity amputation for cancer. And he came and he said, you know, 5% of my body isn't here, and 95% of my body is working great. And I'm going to focus on the 95% that works great. And I think that was a very, very helpful suggestion that we can all benefit from. You want to put joy into every day. I mean, there's always a lot of challenging stuff, whether it's cancer or other things happening to you, happening to people you love and care about, that's either put on your calendar and scheduled or that will just happen spontaneously. And the way to make your life joyful is to put joy into every day. Shortly after I had been diagnosed with cancer and when I had just started some of the treatment, my husband had his 50th birthday, and we had planned, as we always do, to go celebrate at a jazz club. And I wanted to go to the jazz club. Turns out if you tell them that you have cancer and that this might be your last opportunity to go to the jazz club, you can get really good seats at the jazz club. But anyway, my husband said to me, you know, how can we celebrate when you've just been diagnosed with cancer and all this is going on? And it's not just that it's a distraction. It's the point. It's the living of your life. Your life is not all about the cancer, whether you're going through cancer or whether you've been through cancer. It's not all about the cancer. And you have to put that joy into every day, not in any way to minimize how difficult that is. And that's what you want to do. I think humor is a very key thing. When I had to have, lymphoma cells in the fluid around my brain. They had to put a catheter into the fluid around my brain. And I told the brain surgeon before that I wanted to make sure he didn't go anywhere near my sense of humor. And he promised that he wouldn't go near my sense of humor. So I think you want to deal with humor because, you know, some of this cancer stuff is challenging and you need humor to deal with it. For example, you know, you might feel your cognition is not the same. They talk about cognitive impairment after cancer treatment. You know, maybe you can't multitask. Some of those old executive functions aren't quite what they used to be. Coupled with getting older, maybe chemotherapy-induced menopause, lots of stuff. You might not think. We were talking about this in my meditation group, and we were talking about it. We needed a word for it. And a friend of mine said, I know, I call it craft. And I said, craft? And she said, can't remember a thing. And finally, I think you want to use your experience to help others. You know, you've walked this walk, you've been through this, and you can use your experience to help others. And I think that's why we're here sharing our stories tonight. To help each other. And I think that is a really great gift. And I think that also helps us because then, you know, we feel that our cancer is for a reason and we can find that justice in the universe that we perpetually seek. And so I thank you all for inviting me. I thank Memorial for saving my life, and I bless you all. Thank you.